Welcome to the cast, Backstage Banter, where today we are dissecting Demogorgons, dimensions, and psychic links because the Stranger Things finale has come and gone, and I still got questions.
Yeah, where are the Demogorgons? And can't we even take Eleven's ending at face value? Like, come on.
Plus, I've got a question that nobody seems to be talking about, and it's been lumbering in my head like Hopper after a night at the bar.
Well, let's roll the credits already and get into this.
Welcome, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Saris.
And I'm Morgan Elgarden, and I've been trapped in a Vecna-induced haze since Jason wouldn't stop bugging me about getting caught up on this Stranger Things series finale, and I got caught up last night.
Welcome to the rest of the world, because I think you were the last person to watch this thing. I mean, this has been what everybody is talking about for the last week.
It's true. But Jason, admit it, you were ugly crying harder than a demagogue in headlights, weren't you?
Hey, real hosts don't cry, Morgan. We speculate wildly. But fine, maybe we shed a tear or two. I mean, there was a lot of dramatic moments in that finale. I can't help it. I'm only human.
Sure.
Look, if anyone has been obsessing over getting to the end of this series, like at least I have, you've been waiting forever to finally get to this final showdown for Hawkins, and now we have it. And I don't know. I have so many thoughts. There's so many things. I guess we should just start off with a very general sense. Morgan, did you think that the ending landed?
Okay, landed in what sense? Because there's a lot of
What?
there's a lot.
I feel like every time I ask you a question, you're like, all right, I need qualifiers first. Just whatever your opinion is. Do you think for you?
I do need
Did you feel?
qualifiers.
Do you feel like for
Here's
you,
the
it
thing.
satisfied your itch for whatever you were looking for from the series?
Okay, so on that point, no, it did not satisfy my itch. And to some degree, because I just finished this last night, I'm still formulating my thoughts and opinions. I think there are redeemable qualities to this series finale, but overall, I'd have to say that it was not it didn't really deliver on, I guess, the promise the series made, and I didn't feel like I walked away with closure, I guess. Um, I guess
I
would be
could
my
tell
general
you.
sense.
I could tell you. I've watched the ending twice now. I watched once
That's
solo when it
wild.
dropped. I watched, so I've been watching the series with my kids. I had started it when, I mean, this thing started 10 years ago. So I was watching it originally without them, of course. Eventually, when they got old enough to get into it, we started rewatching the series. So I watched the finale without them because they weren't with me that day. But then when they came home, they're like, "Are we going to watch it together?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, of course, whatever. What am I going to tell them? No." So I've watched the finale
Yes,
now
Jason.
twice.
Yes, you are going to tell
I
them no.
I watched the finale twice now. And I will say that watching it the second time around, I did find it more satisfying than I did the first time. The
That's
first time,
wild.
I don't know if you did this, but like we hit that point where they're having it's the end of the final battle, and you're like, okay, is this it? And then I hit the pause on the Netflix on my television, and it still says like 55 minutes left, and I'm like, oh, okay, there's
Okay,
still
wait.
stuff going on. There's still something that's going to happen
I
here.
had a
All
moment.
right, where's
I
this
had a
going?
moment. I did have a moment where it was the final battle. You see Vecna get impaled, and I'm like, "Oh, this is it!" And then I'm like, "Wait a second," because like in my head, I have I don't know, maybe I'm just like a time sensitive person, but I was like, it hasn't been 2 hours though, so
Sure.
I was like, "Wait," and I had a moment where I was like, "Did Jason call it? Is there a time reversal or some time travel thing that is about to happen?" But no,
I was waiting for it.
we got 40 minutes of
Of like an
what's
epilogue.
epilogue.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
dude, I was in the same boat. I was about to go take my victory lap, and I'm like, they're about to do it. They're about to do the time travel thing. I'm like, here we go, here we go. And then it just never happened. And at first I felt like the epilogue was too long, where I'm like, I don't need to know all of this stuff. Like, I wanted the
That's
I
because
wanted
that's
the
because it
episode to be
is,
more about the
Jason.
battle.
It's too long. The epilogue is no 40 minutes is never justified for an epilogue.
After I went back and watched it a second time. Again, I felt a little bit better about it. But all this aside, I'm surprised that you felt that unfulfilled, because there were a couple of specific things you mentioned that you wanted from the finale
Hold
that
on.
you did get. You did get a
Hold on.
couple of the
Yeah.
ones that you wanted. You didn't get
I
Mike dying
didn't
because you did want him
I
to be murdered in
I didn't
bloody
get
fashion.
anybody. I didn't get anybody dying, but
Yeah,
because
which is
remember I said
ridiculous.
I feel like people probably skipped over this opinion of mine, because I feel like whenever we talk about this, everyone just forgets. I'm not really a Stranger Things fan. I was roped in because it is a sort of cultural event that everybody talks about, and I just wanted to be up to date. And two, my genuine opinion was, unless everybody dies, I don't know how this has a satisfying ending. So I feel
See,
like
I don't
people
think
forget that about my
everybody
opinion.
dying would have been satisfying. I think that would have been too many. You have to have some people survive, but somebody should have died because it takes away from the stakes of the story. You have a bunch of
Yeah,
kids fighting
I
this
think that's
unbelievable creature, and none of them get hurt. Like I thought that
so
was
this is
a little far
this
fetched.
is why. And I'm gonna say this, I wasn't 100% unsatisfied. Like I said, there were redeemable things about the finale, but I think that you have a very good point in that if nobody dies or nobody gets hurt, then there were no real stakes ever.
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of people felt that. However, I think that it's, to some degree, a heel of the series because it's about kids, and it brings up like the very real conundrum of, can you kill off kids? And as a writer, that's definitely something that you have to grapple with. And can you do it in a way that would be satisfactory to an audience, where the audience wouldn't be like, holy shit, you just killed off kids? Like, I think they
Unless that's what
wrote
you're going
themselves into
for.
a
I don't know
corner.
if you've seen
I mean, like,
Terrifier 3, but Terrifier 3 crosses that
I
line.
guess.
They do not
I just
care.
think I think they wrote themselves a little bit into a corner, and there wasn't really a way for them to have high stakes like death involved. The only way that they could have done it, in my
You have adult
opinion,
characters though. You could have killed off Hopper. You could have killed Murray. You could have
yeah,
killed Joyce, even though I
you
don't think
absolutely,
Joyce really was ever in any type of significant danger. But you could have killed
yeah,
some of the adult characters to still give it gravity, or have somebody who is, they almost killed Max, right? Where you back it off right from the
yeah.
brink of her actually dying. And even
I
something like
was
that where it was close to death but you don't quite get all the way there. I still think that would have kept it feeling like the danger was actually there and imminent.
I was just gonna say, I think that the only way you could have done it is actually kill off Max, because you already had her on death's door. I I understand plot wise why they didn't, because I guess they needed a way for Holly to get back. But actually killing off Max would have been, I think, a way to go. I think that if you had killed off any of the adults in the circumstances that arose, it would have taken the spotlight away from our main band of characters, because then it would have become about their deaths as opposed to about the kids triumphing over Vecna. So I think that that would have been difficult. I think the only way to do that would have been if Hopper and Murray and possibly Joyce went with them to confront Vecna, but
Which that too, you have
that would
Hopper
have
who's
been,
a police officer, military
yeah,
trained. He's the guy who actually knows how to do some of this combat stuff, and he's just sitting
yeah,
back in the under, the upside down.
yeah.
I
It would
get that
have,
there's a threat there too with the military, so maybe that's what but I thought that was weird. I'm like, all the kids are going into Dimension X, and theoretically, if this was a real thing, you don't even know if you can breathe in this other dimension. I mean, they just went really. I mean, they just dove right in and just hoped for the best. And, maybe there was some sort of Brenner document that we weren't privy to that they found. But we're getting a little into the weeds here. On a
I
letter
thought that was the point.
grade,
I thought that was the point, Jason, to
well,
discuss our
yes, in other
grievances with
in
Stranger
other in other
Things.
in other places, because I do have a few questions that I think a lot of people are asking, and we've gotten some pseudo answers from the Duffer brothers directly about some of them, but they clearly seem like afterthoughts and just I don't know. This is the answer,
I
so I want to
think
speculate a little bit about what might be a better rationale that might get retconned in the future. But before we do that, what is your overall letter grade for the finale? Like A through F, what would you assign it?
oh, I mean, like, I hadn't thought about a letter grade, but I do give it a solid 5. I could be
Out of
persuaded out of 10. 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. So
Yeah,
I would
solid 5
consider
out of
that
10.
then a C because
Oh
you're
no,
putting
it's
it right at the middle
average.
of the road.
Yeah, like it's average. I could be convinced based on its redeemable qualities to maybe bump it up to a 6. I could go top 6.5, but I did not think that. Here's the thing. I think that the Duffer brothers had a phenomenal season 1. And season 1 hooked me. Like I was
Mhm.
roped into Stranger Things by season 1 because I was intrigued by the premise and it was very well written. But I think the Duffer brothers hadn't considered that it could become like a big property and hadn't really planned out how the series would end. And my personal opinion is that it really shows in season 5
I mean, they
because
claim that they
all
knew
of
where
season
this was going to end from the beginning. They claim, and obviously some of this
I
stuff
mean
has been
like
retconned in,
everybody's going to
but they
claim that
claim that they
though.
knew how the final episode was going to go, or at
I
least the
mean,
final
everybody.
scene.
I don't know. I feel like I've never actually really encountered a writer who's like been like, yeah, I had no idea what I was doing. Like, who's gonna own up to that?
that's, that's fair. That's fair. I think a 5 is a pretty low rating, though. I mean, you think of how so many shows end, and it is very difficult for a series of long-standing tenure to land the ending. There's so many that fail at it. I would rate this a B. I think I think it could have been better in a couple spots. They had a lot of things. They did answer a lot of questions. They did leave a couple strings in there for the spin-offs. There are just a couple of issues that I had with it. And maybe we can shift gears and then dive into some of the questions that people are asking, and I can get some of your thoughts, and we can see if we can figure this out. The first of which
And I
everyone
have
seems to be
thoughts.
asking on the internet is, where are the Demogorgons? Where are they? We used to see them all the time earlier in the show, and now we get to the
Yeah.
final season, the final episode, the final battle. They're on vacation. They're nowhere to be found.
Do you
So
want?
where do you think that they are?
Do you? Do you want my legitimate like canon answer, or do you want my production answer?
I would save your production answer. I think I know where you're going with that, and I probably agree with you. But your in canon answer, what do you think? Where do you
Okay.
think they are?
My in-canon answer is that the Demogorgons are an upside down exclusive like creature. So they don't actually exist in the quote unquote abyss, which why did they call it the abyss? Side question, but whatever. And they were perhaps even created by the Mind Flayer to be scouts or soldiers. And for whatever reason, they just don't exist in the abyss, which I personally think is a stupid decision story wise. I could tell you why I think production wise they weren't there, but story wise, I think it's
Bef-
a dumb choice.
Before you get to production wise, I will tell you that the Duffer brothers have said when they were asked, and it totally seemed like we didn't think anyone was going to ask about this question type of response. But their official answer was, Vecna just didn't anticipate that he would get attacked in the abyss, so he didn't have them standing around waiting for anybody. I would think
Sure.
that a better canon answer would either be, to your point, that they're just in the upside down and limited to that. I don't think that that's the case personally, because I think when you see them battling the Mind Flayer, and Steve and Dustin are underneath jabbing at it, there's like little squeals that are coming out of the bottom of that thing, almost like little sacks, like egg sacks that are under there. So my best in canon speculation is that the Mind Flayer either absorbs those or births them as needed, and maybe because they were just sitting around hanging out, he hadn't shot them all out yet, or had absorbed them to kind of up his strength. And that's why you don't see them any physically around. And I'm wondering if that would also be the case with the Demobats, because we haven't seen those at all either. They showed up for just the purpose of killing Eddie last season, and we never saw those again. And I don't understand why. Because the Upside Down used to be dangerous. There used to be things you couldn't breathe and stuff around every corner, and you couldn't be there for too long. Now it's just like, you walk around, it's dark.
Yeah, this goes back to what I said about the fact that the setting had no stakes. Neither they nerfed the Upside Down, and the Abyss had no stakes. It wasn't like the Mind Flayer recalled all of his troops and they were literally going up against an army in the Abyss. Like there were no stakes at all to the Abyss,
Can
other than we have to fight this thing that's very clearly out of our weight class.
can you imagine how cool it would have been as the party's approaching, there are a bunch of Demogorgons that they now have to get through? That would have given Will something really interesting to do. While the party is attacking the Mind Flayer, Will has got to battle them all through the hive mind and fight them. That would have been a really cool visual,
Yeah.
but also would have been a lot more interesting for Will's character and given him more, I don't know, it's just something more tangible than just standing off in the desert, raising his hand for 20 minutes or whatever it was.
Well, I mean, he did play a crucial part in the Vecna fight. I don't want to necessarily underplay
He did.
that
It
because
took everybody.
I don't want to sound
I'm
like
just
I'm
saying from a
totally
visual
shitting on.
standpoint.
Yeah.
I get it. It's not that his role wasn't important, because it was, but we don't get to see him do that. We hear his voice as you're going through the memory. You get a couple flashes to him. It would have been really cool to see his moment like he did at the military base, where he's like taking these things on. I think that would have been really, that would have helped build that climax to that battle much more than what we got, in my opinion. But you said you have a production reason why you think that there was no Demogorgons or Demobats around. What do you think that is?
Yeah, so I think that they ran out of budget. I feel like I say this a lot, but think about how much, and I saw online some people were kind of annoyed with the fact that the finale had CGI. And I have to be honest, I didn't expect anything different for the finale because how
Yeah, I don't
else
know
are
what
you
they were
going to
thinking.
do the Mind Flayer? Um,
With
so I
practicals,
think
they needed to build a real kaiju. That's what they needed to do. They should have
yeah, they
been
need to.
birthing it. The series has taken 10 years. They could have birthed it 10 years ago and just raised it to adulthood for the show.
This is true. The things we do
James Cameron would have
for
done it.
but I think they ran out of budget. And I read somewhere that this last season was like 60 mil
Yeah.
an episode, which is wild. And I don't know if that's an even split for all 8 or if it's just on average 60 mil, because that last episode has very high production value as far
Mhm.
as the CGI budget and all of the other things. So I wouldn't be surprised if a more lion's share of that budget went to the last episode. But I think the production reason there are no Demogorgons is because
It's
that's just
expensive. Yeah.
yeah, that's just crazy expensive. And
I agree. I think that's the reason too. It's expensive, and they figured we don't need it. Nobody will notice. And then everyone
yeah,
noticed, because it's the internet, and that's what we do. We notice everything. And the Duffer brothers
yeah,
are sitting in a room somewhere going, "Oh God, oh, they
yeah.
noticed all the things." So
Which I'm not saying that you can necessarily write a plot hole free script, but there were
sure,
some very obvious things that they did in this season finale or in this series finale that I think are major oversights. And it could be chalked up to the fact that this is really their big major property and they've never had eyes like this on a series before. But yeah, I mean audiences notice everything, especially if you get a really devout group of people for your property. Like they notice everything. And you can't just explain it away as like, "Oh, well, I kind of forgot."
yeah, they weren't expecting anybody to show up there. So let me ask you this, because here's another question that I have about this finale. We talked about it a little bit. We see Henry go into his memory, reliving that moment where he opens the briefcase, pulls out the stone. That's what connects him to the Mind Flayer originally. Where did the stone come from if the Mind Flayer is connected to it? Like, I don't. And I get
Yeah.
maybe we're going to explore this with a spinoff, but if the Mind Flayer is looking for somebody to help usher him into this universe, how did he get that first break into the universe to deliver that stone? Or is that not connected to the Mind Flayer and it's just a random stone that can do things?
Yeah.
But then the second part of this is if that's where he got his powers from, why did he end up in Brenner's lab to develop the powers? Because I thought up until this point that he was the first test subject, which I guess he still is, number one, but he already had those powers walking into Brenner's lab. I'm surprised that he would have been like, cool, yeah, sign me up. I'll live here and, be the faux janitor until I decide to go all crazy at the end of this run.
So this is why I think, and I'm glad you bring this up because this was one of my bigger issues with the finale. Because it's a very brief thing in the finale. I think it takes up less than 10 minutes, probably even less than 5 minutes in the actual episode. And this is why I think that the Duffer brothers didn't know how they wanted to end the series because for the for the other seasons, for the rest of Stranger Things, it is made out to be that Henry is an anomaly, that there's something special about him, and that's why he ends up in the Brenner Labs because they discover him.
I just don't understand why Henry, being as powerful as he was, would not only go along and hang out there, which maybe you can argue, well, he was a kid and he was lonely and wanted to be with people, fine. But if he has all this power, why did he stay there for so long? Because we see him in adulthood before he finally leaves. So he's just chilling out there forever and he's like, oh,
Well,
I'll just.
he doesn't just stay because we get that whole scene when he's trying to help Eleven escape and he talks very specifically with Eleven about how he needs Eleven's help in order to escape. So he doesn't stay of his own volition. He stays because he can't get out. But again, this goes to what I was saying before about the Duffers not knowing how they wanted to end it because this to me felt like a retcon where they kind of felt like for me what it felt like is well, we never actually really explained how he got his powers, so we can do this. And to me, I felt like they had already explained how they got his powers, which it was some innate ability that he had. It was in his literal blood, which is why they could extract his blood to make new Vecnas. And
Right.
then they introduced this whole thing with the briefcase about how like, oh, it was actually the Mind Flayer who gave him his powers, which from a canon point of view makes coherent sense. I just didn't like it. I thought it was shoehorned in there.
So I feel like we got that scene because they want to set up a spinoff. I assume whatever spinoff that they're doing, because the Duffer Brothers have said it is in the universe, but it is not the same cast of characters. It's not the same villains. It's something. So I feel like this stone is going to be the center narrative of whatever the spinoff is. And it'll probably answer some of these questions, but I do feel like it was added in there just so this way they can make a spinoff. So they had to tie that, and it probably was retconned at some point. Now you can make the case, and maybe the spinoff will put some sort of facts behind it or lore behind it that it couldn't have worked with just anyone, and Henry happened to be the anomaly that it could have worked with. Was maybe that kind of makes both points work, but we may not know until whatever they're doing as the other project is created and released, and who knows when that'll be a while probably.
I mean like me personally, I'm not necessarily looking forward to it because I think that I think that you're right. I think we're both on the same page where it was a decision made in order to prom um propagate the
Promote
series
or
or
propagate.
give an avenue to continue exploring the
Yeah.
universe and further properties, but I didn't appreciate it. I think that there was if that's something that you wanted to do, there was a different better way to do it. I don't know that I personally have the answers to what are those better ways. I just know that this wasn't it. It didn't hit.
So you mentioned giving all these kids the Henry Vecna blood to make additional Vecnas, which leads me to my next question. We see during this season when Kali first tries to run and escape, there's all these pregnant women in there because they've been given vials of Henry's blood or Kali's blood to try to make other enhanced children. They're
Right.
all sitting in that upside down thing. The party blows up the upside down base. Are we just murdering all those pregnant ladies then?
We don't talk about it. we don't we
I
don't talk about it, Jason.
I think they did. They did. They gone. Like,
Is that the question?
it's one of those things
Wait, is
that
that the question? Do I think that they're dead? Yes.
yes. Do you think that they're all dead, or is that what we're supposed to walk away from? Is just our party murdered military personnel, but not only them, but also pregnant women that were trapped
if
against their own will?
if I'm being generous, what I can say is only Kali saw that, and Kali didn't tell anybody. So
She did.
they
She
were
told 11.
ignorant.
She told 11,
She
I
told
believe, didn't
11
she?
about the pregnant women.
That's how we saw it, is because she was explaining her story to 11, and after the first whatever episode it was where we see Kali there and it ends,
Right. Yeah,
then the next episode they're talking and she tells them. So 11 knows that there's a bunch of pregnant
so
ladies there,
knows.
and 11's like, "That's all right, we gotta blow this thing up."
I mean, like, dude, I mean, like, I have issues with 11's character, and for me, it doesn't feel like something that 11 wouldn't do. I
To
think
pregnant
that
ladies, I think that was a stretch.
well,
Like, she'll straight up murder military people. I buy that. I did not buy that she would have actively allowed the murder of pregnant women. I think it was just an oversight in the writing. I think that they thought it was a cool visual, and then all of a sudden they're like, let's move on with the story, and they totally forgot, hey, we should consider the fact that we've got these pregnant women that are sitting there doing nothing.
I also like. I think that there are a lot of things that are an oversight. One of which is Kali's character provides almost, and I'm being generous here, almost no value to the story. I don't understand why they brought her back, and it was so vexing to me.
I could tell you why, but I'm going to wait because we're not there yet. I'm going to save it. So we'll come back to this in a minute.
I didn't realize I was jumping ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. How would you have known? You're not psychic. But
I'm not Vecna.
So before we get there, the big question that I think everyone is asking: do you or do you not think 11's ending is real? Like, what do you think happened to 11? Can we trust what we saw, or can we trust what Mike has told us?
This is another thing where I have like two opinions, because I have one opinion that do I think that Stranger Things is going to continue as a property, and I have another opinion of what do I actually think the canon is. The shorter answer is, do I think Stranger Things will continue as a property? Yes, therefore 11 is not dead. If I'm looking at it from a canon perspective, I think 11 is dead.
Interesting.
Or at the very least, if I want to be generous, at the very least, stuck in the upside down.
I disagree with you. I think 11 is not dead. And there are a couple of specific reasons why. Primarily, the military has the hedgehogs going, right? Those sound devices that make it so 11 can't use her powers.
Right.
She not only disappears, but she has that psychic connection with Mike to tell him goodbye, where she's got to extend time. So they're having it in some sort of ultra fast conversation that is, to them, relatively real time.
Wait, did I miss that entirely? What are you talking about? That they have a telepathic conversation?
Yeah, maybe you did. So they ride out of the upside down. The military gets them. That starts pulling everybody off the truck. 11 is firmly on the truck, sitting next to Mike. She's holding him. They're touching. Like, she's definitely there. That is not an illusion. The military then opens up the gate, starts pulling people off, and they're like, "Where's 11? She must have escaped. We can't find her. She's gone." We then see her later appear in the gate, right, with the upside down behind her.
Mm-hmm.
Mike breaks free and tries to run for her, and then he falls to his knees in like a black void where there's water on the ground. That is a
Oh,
psychic
yeah,
conversation that they're having. Not only is it a
yeah,
psychic conversation they're having, but there's water on the ground, which is usually what we see when she is in a tank, not when
right.
she's just doing it. When she's just doing it, she shows up and people are wherever. The water means she's in a tank. So we see her
Okay.
there, but the hedgehogs are going, which should not allow her to use her powers. So the fact that she's using her powers and it's there ground zero means that she's using her powers from somewhere else. She is not physically there in that portal like they're showing her. And we see that thing sitting there and she's doing her finger twitch like we saw Kali's illusion doing when Kali was faking being still trapped up
Mm-hmm.
when Dr. K. So there's this theory that Kali and her worked out a way that her story did not have to end because Kali says, my story was always going to end here,
That's
but
not a
yours didn't.
Yeah, that's not a theory. That is canon. We
That
see
part
that
is not.
happen in the
That
episode.
yeah, I'm getting to the theory. I'm
Oh,
setting up
you're
the parts
setting
that
up the
lead to the
theory.
yeah.
Okay,
We see
I already have plot holes to poke, but
yeah.
continue.
So we see this as Kali is after Kali's been shot, she's laying on the ground and yeah, 11 is very upset. And she says, "Don't worry, my story was always end to end here, but yours doesn't have to." And then we
Right.
cut away. We later see that her and Hopper walk out, and Murray's like, "Where, hey guys, we did it. Hey, everything. Hey, where's Kali?" And we see Hopper react in sadness, and we see
Right.
11 just kind of turn and make no expression at all, as if she is not as sad as Hopper for some reason. So
Mm-hmm.
my theory, and this is what a lot of people are speculating, is that Kali, while dying, definitely not going to be able to survive, was alive long enough to project an image when needed. This way, it can make it seem as though 11 is gone, so people stop hunting her. Because Kali's point was, if they know you're still there, they're going to follow you forever. So maybe that was her alternative solution of like, I got it. When you need me, I'll hang out as long as possible. Send me a little texty text or whatever, or I'll try to keep tabs on you, and I will project this image. This way we can trick people into thinking you're dead. This way you can live that life that goes on and you don't have to end yourself here.
Yeah. There's a lot about it that was very confusing to me because on some things I agree with you. So they're in the truck and Mike is holding 11.
Mm-hmm.
So that can't be a projection unless in the 11th hour Kali is able to now conjure physical objects, which I suppose I
Yeah, I
could
don't think so.
buy, but I don't think that's a thing. Um so my first question was, wait, how did we go from 11 clearly being in the truck with them to now being an apparition in the gateway? That was difficult for me to square because she is physically moving with them and then all of a sudden she disappears. So either she disappears into the night, meaning like somewhere in Earth, like she's somehow able to avoid all of the military that is there and is able to make an
Well,
escape, or
we see that. We see when Mike is telling the story, as what he believes happened. We
right, but
don't see
that's what he
Kali creating an
believes.
apparition for her, but we see her, ducking out or whatever. So that could be what happens. But either way, I think Kali then blankets her with, this way it doesn't look like she's there because she was in the truck and then she's just gone. She can't
Right,
just disappear, but Kali can make it look as though she disappeared and then
right.
makes another illusion that she is now standing in the gateway. So she can
Um,
walk wherever because she's invisible at that point, and then
sure.
she shows up as another
Here's
apparition elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, like my other problem with this whole scenario is, I mean, I don't think that. I mean, like, it's so difficult for me to wrap my head around because like Kali is in a different place, but they
Mhm.
establish during the episode that there's a range to their power. And I don't know how far away Kali is. It's difficult for me to
Yeah.
swallow that they are
I
within range of her powers, and in
and how would she
range
know? How would she
where
know what time to turn it on and off? I get it. It's not
like she has,
perfect,
yeah, no line of
but
sight,
I
and also like those things are present and they are suppressing that area. I mean, they're not pointed at the upside down, they're pointed at the returning trucks and whatever and caravans. Like you see them on either side of the gate and they're pointed like at Mike and crew. And I
Mhm.
don't know if that would impact their abilities. Like can they make
But she would have still
things
had to get
happen?
around them because she was in the truck when they went on. So it would not allow her to get to the gate without some sort of assistance. So I my thought is that's what is happening there. Canonically, I think
Well, we
that
know
she is alive,
I don't
whatever,
think
but I think
wait,
it's
wait, wait, wait,
sloppy
wait.
writing because to your point, we don't know how far
I
away they
also
are.
though
So a suspension of disbelief.
even if I bought this theory of like Kali makes 11 invisible and she slips through all of the military guard, we know that based on how those are positioned and they're facing towards Mike and company, if she was on the truck and she exited the gate into that area, those cripple her and she can't move. So even if she were invisible, she wouldn't be able to go anywhere.
She
So
did move.
it falls
She did
apart.
move when they turned him on in the building where Collie was shot. You know, she powered through to like crawl away and because she was trying to get to Collie and she was like crawling towards them. So she
Yeah,
is
I mean
able to
like
move. It's just not real efficient.
not super successfully because I guess you see
No.
Kali do that too when they get caught during the that scene where Hopper has to pick because like the helicopter comes with the thing and they're in the hallway of I forget what building and Hopper has to make a decision as to who to I mean it's not a serious decision. Obviously he picks 11 to get her out of there, but then
Yeah, of
Kali
course.
gets captured by the military or whatever. Like so you see Kali trying to crawl away too, but it's not an effective mode of traveling.
So I think for me it is which scenario has less plot holes to it. Do we believe that 11 was somehow able to sneak off the truck while everybody has got eyes on her, then walk to the gate, go in there, turn around and go, I'm here? Or do we
Mhm.
think that, it's in range from wherever Kali's abilities are, and as she's dying, she somehow was able to know that this was the time that 11 needed to be cloaked, put the two things over, and she hobbles away on her own. I am more inclined to believe that that's viable than she just snuck away on her own accord while the hedgehogs are going and she can barely move in front of 24 people to then stand up in the middle of the gate and just blow up with everything else. To me, it seems like that is
Yeah.
a further stretch. Neither scenario is perfect. I think it's sloppy writing either way. And I think it was more
Okay.
like
Far
here's a
from it.
cool resolution, but you don't think about all the details. But it's, I think she's still alive. And I think that it was the theorized version. But the
I
only
want to
person that knows is Millie Bobby Brown, apparently, her and the Duffer brothers. And she's been specifically told not to tell Noah Schnapp because apparently he leaks stuff.
yeah. I I want to take a moment because again, I don't want it to seem like I'm just shitting all over Stranger Things because I I think that it was a very ambitious last episode that they tried to do, as evidenced by the fact that there is a 40-minute epilogue where they're trying to wrap everything up. And if I'm being generous in that way, I think that when you only have so many pages to a script and every page has to be meaningful, every word has to be meaningful, I think you have to make cuts in places. And I think that when they were in the 11th hour of trying to make sure that this script is all good and everything makes sense, I think there were just egregious oversights because I think that the script was probably initially much longer and they realized that it can't be. So they had to make cuts. And I'm I don't know what happened during production, but I know that once you lock a script and you're organizing production, like, yes, changes happen. I'm not trying to say that they don't, but typically the reason that these sort of plot holes arise are because you make changes during production days. Like, you're making changes after you've locked the script. And I could fully believe that there were things coming up during production where the Duffers were like, oh, wait, we need to patch that. And it's just, I think it became, because again, I don't think, I think that this is their inexperience showing where they've never carried a series of this weight and just a lot of problems arose.
I actually don't think that I know it probably sounds like both of us are really trying to point to all these problems with it. I actually don't think that this is atypical of any project. There's often a lot of these little things, but when you have a project like Stranger Things that has a very passionate fan base and it's a whole world where you try to immerse yourself in the world and you want to be a part of it, especially when it's ending and you're sad to see it go, I think fans will naturally go through everything with a fine-tooth comb where you wouldn't get that if the property was not as beloved because it's like nobody's looking at it with such a magnifying glass over it. So I don't
I
think that
think
these are
also,
typical.
though,
I don't think it's like that they couldn't handle it. I just think that we are going so much more granularly, or we're looking at this at such more granular level than typical shows get.
I
And that's why
disagree.
people find all this stuff.
I think everything gets scrutinized. I disagree, and I think that the properties that are, I think my opinion is I think that there are properties that are more well put together that would warrant less scrutiny, or not that it would warrant less scrutiny, but that there's less to pick apart because they're more airtight. Not that anything can ever be 100% airtight, but there are other properties, other movies, other series that I think are more well put together than how the end of this was put together. And I do think that to some degree that is a result of an experience, but I also think that the reason that it's getting this degree, this like fifth degree, is because it was unsatisfying and people are trying to either justify their dislike or find a way to be okay with it. Like and I don't know, maybe it's because I am not a super fan, but I'm seeing a lot of people that were overall unsatisfied. Not that they didn't enjoy the episode, because I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed watching the
Sure.
episode, but at the end I was like, that's it? That's how we're ending it? That's how we're ending this 10-year adventure? So,
So I also want to highlight that I know that there are a lot of videos and discourse about it feeling unsatisfying as an ending. The season got like 130 million views, and
sure.
the overall ratings that people gave it are 8 out of 10s, 4 out of 5s for the finale. So I don't think that most people disliked the finale. I think that it is more an issue that people are sad to see it go and you poke holes in it because you want that's easier than just saying it's over. Because you want
Mhm.
to keep talking about it, you want to keep thinking about it, you want to keep living in that moment. So you try to find these things to kind of keep it relevant even when it's done because you don't want to say goodbye. So I think that that's part
Sure.
of it too. I don't think that overall it is a failure of a series finale. I look at things like the original Dexter series. That was a failure of a season finale. There's plenty of shows that have bad the Game of Thrones failure of the series finale. I don't think
Sure.
this is that. I think that this was a solid finale. I think we got a lot of the questions that we had answered. We got some nuggets that weren't answered, but we can theorize and kind of live on with that, which I appreciate because I'm one of those people that I want to keep thinking about it after it's gone. And we got nice endings for all of the characters that we love. Is that what I would
Well,
have
this
picked?
is
No, I think it would have been better if there was some weight to losing people and maybe not everything ended up as nice and packaged with a pretty bow. But that's me. I think for the general audience, I think most people felt like this was satisfying enough.
well, I mean, I guess that's where I take issue with it is satisfying enough always feels like you're
Nobody's going to be
settling.
100% satisfied with everything, though. Nobody.
I don't know. That's not what I'm saying. What
No,
I'm
I know.
saying that there was
But
a
I'm
better way
saying,
to end the series. And I maintain that there was a better way to end the series that would have been more satisfying. Are you ever going to be 100% satisfied with how something ends? Typically, no, because you, hypothetically, if you're pining for that, you don't want it to end. But I think that I just, when you were saying that you appreciated that they left certain things unanswered, that's actually a mark of a like ending well written. And this is sort of Tolkien to a degree because Tolkien talks specifically in his literature and in interviews with him about how to end a story. And his perspective, and this is why it's very Tolkien, and he's not the only one. He didn't coin this or create this, but his opinion is that you have to leave something for the audience to imagine. You have to
yeah,
leave something for them to be able to walk away with and make their own. And because we had 40 minutes of exposition at the end, of 40 minutes of epilogue at the end, tying up all of those bows neatly, you don't leave much up for the audience to walk away with and make their own and be able to imagine what could have or would have happened. And in that
yeah.
way, it does make it a little bit unsatisfying.
For me, it's a major plot thread versus minor plot thread. I think the major questions we had were answered. Like, what is the Upside Down? What is the relationship between Vecna and the Mind Flayer? Which is one of the things that you said originally when we were talking about this a few weeks ago that you needed to know from the finale. You needed to understand the hierarchy of
Mhm.
power. So we got that. You wanted,
We didn't
you
though.
know,
We
you
didn't
we
though. They
we
they
did.
I think they dodged it. No, I think they dodged it because they made it to like you said it well before where you were like this is some sort of
They have like a
symbiotic
symbiotic.
relationship,
Yep.
which doesn't set up a hierarchy. It sets up a I don't know
But
what.
your concern was that you didn't understand why Vecna was not the big bad if that was the case that he was reporting to the Mind
Correct.
Flayer. So we have
Correct.
that solved because it is that they are partners to a degree where they need one another. So that does
Right.
answer that question as to why that's, why is he still out there and why is Vecna here versus him and that sort of thing. So it did answer that. And I know you were also
Yeah.
concerned about Mike being the leader, and we got him to step up to the plate, which was one of the things, you were worried about because you said he was a terrible leader. And he had his faults, but he did step up and he did lead the group when he needed to in this episode. So,
Mhm.
we got that win there. We
Yeah, I
got
will say
answers about
for
Will and why
anybody
he was selected. And I mean, like the
for
things that
for
we needed were
anybody
there.
for anybody who maybe was unhappy with Morgan's mic take, what I will say is I think that to some degree his character was redeemed in the finale. So if anybody was unhappy with how I felt about Mike's character, I do think that Mike got a satisfactory end to his character arc. And I know that people are going to take that out of context and be like, "Oh, see, he was satisfied with how the finale went." No, very specifically, Mike had a satisfactory closure to his character arc. So,
So at the top of the episode, I teased that there's one question I had that I don't think anybody's been asking. So I don't know if I just missed this
yes,
somewhere or if I just haven't seen it, but I'm curious if you have an answer for it.
I
We
almost
know
assuredly
Vecna
do.
needed Well, Vecna needed the 12 kids because
Yes.
just apparently had nothing to do with the clock like we thought. It was just 12 was the number. So he needed 12 kids to merge these worlds together. But earlier in the series, Vecna was killing people. He killed, I mean, I guess by proxy of the Demogorgon, he killed Barb. He definitely killed Chrissy directly. He tried to kill Max. He killed that person that was going on sleuthing interviews with Nancy. If these
Oh
kids were
yeah, yeah.
picked deliberately because they have these innate powers and that's part of this process of merging the worlds, why were those other people selected and just killed? I get why they were targeted because they were all people with internal trauma that didn't present, so they were a type that he gravitated towards. But why did
Mhm.
he need to kill these people for his plan? I don't see the connection. Did I miss that somewhere?
That's a really good question.
I only have good questions. All of my questions
I
are good.
up for debate. I think that, well, it's this is a thought that I had very briefly, and originally my theory, if I can call it a theory, was that these people weren't young enough to effectively carry out his plan, because you see in the finale and sort of throughout season 5 that he's very specifically choosing young kids of what I'm assuming to be elementary age. So these are
Yeah,
like fifth
middle
graders or
school.
younger.
I think they're all middle school kids, right?
Are they middle school kids?
Maybe, yeah, maybe Holly's. Yeah, I think Holly is supposed to be 10, so yeah, maybe fifth grade. You might be right.
Fifth grade and younger is sort of the vibe that I got, is
Hmm.
that they're young kids, and they answer very specifically why he's using young kids, and it's because they're more malleable, and all of the people that he killed are high schoolers, so too old.
Except for he tried to kill Max, and Max was around that age when that happened too, I think, or at least younger than the high schoolers, or
No,
maybe
they were
just high
they were
school. It's hard
no,
for
they
me
were
to
in high
pin down
school.
what.
Season 4 starts with them being in high school, and season 5 is like a year later or so. So they're just older high school students.
Okay,
So when he starts going after Max, Max is in high school, but still, even if we say that she was in middle school, I personally still think that that's too old, because the kids that he got are younger than fifth grade and younger, is was my take. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's high school that Max was in, and he does attempt to kill her and is unsuccessful. I'm not entirely sure why he needs to kill them, which is why I think the theory falls apart. And also, Max, Barb, Chrissy, the others, they don't display any sort of innate talent. And the other issue with it is, if Vecna got his powers, or Henry got his powers from this rock, then nobody has innate powers. Henry was given his powers by the Mind Flayer. So the whole thing, the whole actual premise of the 5th season falls apart because of the introduction of
now
that stupid rock.
no, but going back to your point about you thought that Henry was special. So if we go with the idea that the Rock could not just unlock anybody, but it could unlock somebody that has this pre-genetic disposition that allows this innate ability to be unlocked, then you can still make the case that
Sure.
there are others that have an innate ability that just
That's
has to be
fair.
awakened. So maybe that's
That's
the
fair.
case. But we make it a point to, Henry says that he chose Will because he was the first and he needed to be molded and he had him build the tunnel. So there was purpose to Will. He needed him to build tunnels.
Hmm.
Fine. He needs
And
these current
also, it's
kids to
worth
bring them
noting,
together. Fine. It-
it's also worth noting though that he gets Will to do all those stuff when he's like an element. Well, I guess Will would have been middle school at the start of the season, right there in middle school when they started season 1, or were they in elementary school?
they, I don't know. They were either fifth or sixth grade.
They were like
So
young, so
they were
they
young. Yeah.
were, or Will specifically was young, because I think Will is supposed to be like the youngest of them.
So my only idea here, and maybe I just have to go back to watch the season, but I remember there was something with gates. So is killing people in that crumpled up fashion, is that what builds the gates for some reason?
Oh, maybe it's like one of those things where he has to kill somebody in order to open the gate. Like maybe that's what it is, because at each death site there's a gate. So maybe it's possible that there must be some sort of blood sacrifice in order to open one of these gates.
Maybe. I mean, that sounds better than any idea that I've heard elsewhere. So sure, we'll run with that.
I don't
Okay,
know.
so
Genuinely, I don't know. I think it's a plot. I think you raise a very interesting plot hole. So,
it's probably in there somewhere. I feel like maybe something with the gates. It's probably like what you said. It's just I was thinking about this yesterday. And I'm like, well, there was a purpose for picking Will, but what was the purpose for picking these other people? Or why did the Demogorgons sometimes run around and just kill people randomly? Like Barb, what was Barb doing? Like, why were the Demogorgons there when Barb was there? It was just a scary thing in the shadow, and they were like, oh,
yeah.
she's here. Because they ignore
Yeah.
people a lot. I understand that they'll attack when they're threatened. Like in the hospital, there's police and guards, and they attack them because now they feel like that's a threat in the way of what they're there to do. But also they're just walking around and they're like, oh, here's a person. I guess I'll munch on them. Sometimes it feels like they just do things to do things. But if Vecna is sending
Sure.
the Demogorgon, why did Vecna send that Demogorgon originally to get what ended up being Barb killed?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I mean, this is why I I'm calling the Duffer Brothers bluff, because if they knew how the series was going to end, if they knew what the final battle was going to look like, and they knew who Vecna is and what Vecna was doing, then the Barb scene 100% makes no sense. Like that's just a
Are
random
you
killing, and there's no gate there.
are you telling me that you're now going to call them the Bluffer Brothers?
Maybe, maybe.
Eh? Eh?
Hashtag Bluffer Brothers. I'm gonna put that on the video. Hashtag Bluffer Brothers.
There we go. Um, okay, so I think we've covered the big questions in there. I'm curious what other people think. Follow us on, all the socials, of course. Let us know in the comments if there's something that we missed or if you have a better explanation than what we got.
Tell us how wrong I am.
I always love to
I'll
see
fight you.
Morgan's
I'll
wrong
fight you in the
comments.
comments.
Did you see that? I think didn't we have a clip of me threatening to fight somebody in the comments, or didn't
Yeah.
I?
Yeah, I think
Did
it
I
was in the
actually,
last episode.
or did I comment at somebody? I don't know. I don't remember. But I
You were
feel like
literally
somebody.
saying you were literally saying I need to fight someone in the comments. Like
I think
you,
about
like
movie
it was somehow
selections,
a
right? If they were
pastime
gonna,
of yours.
I'm looking for a new hobby. I don't know. So, yeah. But anyways, we are on YouTube. If you're listening to this on the audio stream, you can watch the video. If you are watching this on YouTube, then follow us on the audio only streams. We're on all your favorite podcast platforms at the Cast Backstage Banter. That's the way you find us. Morgan, any other final notes?
Next week will be a completely ASMR episode where Jason combs his beard for 30 minutes.
I tried combing my beard for the first time, like not too long ago, because I never
Oh
really
yeah.
thought of it as a thing. And I could get the comb to just stick there and it just hangs out. And I don't know why. It's like oddly satisfying to like watch where it just. So this may be a thing. Let's try it. Let's see if we can
Maybe.
get can we get 10,000 views on me combing my beard?
We'll
Actually, this thing
see.
needs to go. I think I need to get rid of it soon. We'll see. If you think I should get rid of my beard, comment down below.
5,000 likes and Jason will get rid of his beard.
I always like those YouTube videos where people just have the most random, like, you either get like some weird, bizarre thing that people shouldn't have an opinion on, or something that's like very obvious. Like, if you think puppies are cute, like this video, like, who's, like, stop it. Like, that's ridiculous. I mean, like the video if you agree with my comment, but like, I just hate when people make it like so blatantly obvious that they're going for likes, like this if you need food to live. Like, well, I guess
Yeah.
I'll click then. All right, but
I
think
mean, like, if you're prone, if you're weak-minded like Jason and prone to like crap on social media, yes. But if you're like Morgan and you're stalwart of opinion, you will just scroll past it, not caring at all. I'm the
except for when you
person
get
who
to our
gets those.
videos.
I'm I'm that person who gets those dumb emails of like, send this to 5 people and in the next year you'll make $1 million. I'm like, yeah, sure.
Follow-up question: have you made $1 million yet? So
No, and
how
I
do you know
guarantee
it
you if I
doesn't work? You don't know. You've never tried it.
Oh, okay.
And there's a prince that I know who has messaged me many times, and I can set you guys up because if you send him a little bit of money, he will send it back to you like tenfold.
Reviving the Nigerian prince scam.
He seems like a nice guy. I don't know. He's got terrible
Well,
spelling though. It's so atrocious. The guy can't write to save his life. Anyways, I think that's a wrap on this
anyway.
week's episode of the Cast Backstage Banter. Until next time, keep the reel rolling, and we will catch you in the next scene.
Hey, that's a cut.
I got it.